Good morning, everybody. Let me back up a little bit here, make sure I'm set up on the camera the right way. Well, my name is Jose Vasquez. I am a former UT Vol. I mean, this is for me a great opportunity to reminisce, come back to where it all started. As a strength coach, you know, we all have something that sparked on our desire to become a strength coach. Why did we become strength coaches? And for me, it started here. As a baseball player, I realized that there was a need for formalized exercise training at the time. We had strength coaches, we had football strength coaches, but we didn't know exactly what we needed to do. And so as I was playing, I realized that I needed extra help. I wanted to get faster, I want to get stronger. And so even though I love baseball and my goal was to become a Major League Baseball player, but my interest in strength and conditioning started because I felt the need to get physically better, physically stronger. And so in this facility, which was not as nice as this now, in this facility is where my desire and it was the beginning of a lifelong journey of strength and conditioning. I have spent the last over 25 years looking to see what is best for a baseball player, looking for ways to improve baseball players. And so in my search, I landed a job with the New York Mets back in 2001, and I haven't looked back ever since. I've been with the Mets for 4 years. I just finished 18 years with the Texas Rangers, culminating in a World Series championship. And for me, strength and conditioning has been a lifestyle. It's not just a personal thing, but it's something that for me, it began as a way to give to other players. I always saw the need for this in the game. And so as I began my career as a strength coach, I realized that there's always something to learn. There's always people to learn from, universities, colleges, coaches. And so it was a journey that has been exciting. It's been fulfilling. We've had, I cannot tell you how many experiences that I have from right now in the audience. I see one of the first people that saw me as a strength coach. I began in a little warehouse here in West Tennessee, West Knoxville. And so it's good to see how many people you meet along the way in your journey to get better. And so as I stand here today, we're trying to form a partnership between the PBS CCS and the University of Tennessee. The University of Tennessee is one of the up and coming programs. I mean, when I was here, we had some successful years, but the last 10 years here at the University of Tennessee, they turned out some really good baseball, turned out some really good baseball players. And I'm proud to say that I'm a Vol. As a member of the PBS CCS, we started out at the NSCA convention with just visiting vendors, just a meeting here and there, to now we're a society of over 200 members, and the events, to have a concert with a live band, the events that we are now putting together is something to be proud of. So to see the growth of the baseball program here at Tennessee, the growth of the PBS CCS, but also just my personal growth as a man, as a strength coach, it is great to see, because not only have I had the privilege to work with so many great players, but I've got the privilege to work at a lot of great people. And so one of the things that we want to do today is offer you some ideas. Hopefully you can take a few things and become a better strength coach, become a better speaker, become a better communicator. And so as I move on from this role as a strength coach, and because I'm moving on to be a special assistant, I hope to get involved in more areas of baseball and be able to share some of my experiences with younger coaches, younger players. So today, without further ado, I want to introduce the head coach of the University of Tennessee, Tony Vitello. I've gotten the privilege to meet him, talk to him a little bit, and I love what he's doing here for the Tennessee baseball program. And it's a privilege for me to present to you, Tony Vitello.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Morning to everybody that's here in person. How you doing? And then over Zoom, this is my first ever combo. So hopefully I I know what I'm doing with this whole deal. Perfect size group that's in here in person to have just a conversation, which is what I kind of like. I steal that from Q rather than talk at you, rather talk with you. So feel free to interrupt or maybe at the end, if there's a question or two, great. If not, I can blab on and on about kind of the topic of why you guys are here as long as possible. But hopefully while I blab, I keep you awake. I'm still trying to wake myself up. I just did a speaking engagement for a group, bunch of Tennessee fans. Just wanted somebody from the Vols to talk, and some guy afterwards was, you know, wanting to do pictures and shake hands and complimentary and all that. He was the same guy I could see straight ahead sleeping while I was talking, and I tried to raise my voice and use the mic a little bit, but I guess that's a trade-off sometimes. It was a good speaking engagement, but it was funny how that stood out. To me, personal experience is a good reason for me to be visiting with y'all. I certainly don't want to go into areas where I'm over my skis. Everybody in here probably knows a lot more than I do about what you all do. For me, I've just been blessed to kind of be around this thing, I think really based off recruiting. As a single guy, young guy, didn't know what I was doing and hustled around. And just from that extra time put in on the recruiting front, I've been able to be around some amazing people and now have a very, very blessed job. I never would have got into that position without making the team at University of Missouri. Never would have made that team without overcoming skill deficits. I wasn't very good, if we want to be blunt at it. Swing wise, all that. I mean, I was capable enough to play and be a good high school player, but I had no business playing at a high level in college. But somewhere along the line, in our weight room in high school, there was a sign that said, "Sooner or later, a hard worker will succeed." We eventually put that in our locker room here, and I would stare and look at that sign all the time. A, as a reminder, and B, I guess, somewhat motivation to keep going, because I started putting in more and more time, and the results weren't necessarily coming as quickly as I wanted to or wanted them to. And there came many times where I could have either quit or kept going. And fortunately, kind of became passionate about a lot of areas, including speed work. There's a guy named Jesse Swift who lives in East Illinois. He trained Steve Atwater, who used to, I don't even know if Steve Atwater's hits would be legal anymore. He played for the Broncos, Brian Cox, a bunch of guys that kind of came out of the East St. Louis area. And I had the good fortune of playing with his son, and he trained me in speed work. This was right when exposure was starting to become a hot word, and I'd never really run a true 60, and we ran. Now, granted, I was in spikes, and it was in the outfield on grass, but I ran a 7.45 60, and it scared the hell out of me. I thought my college baseball days were over after that year. I was in junior college at the time. Where am I going to go play where an infielder can run that slow? And I certainly ain't hitting over the fence a whole bunch either. But I got with Jesse every day. There was no day, because he had to take his son home, where we spent an hour together. But there was literally every single day, there was something that we did to kind of work on my deficiencies in the way I was running. A year later, I was a 6.85, and I was a pinch runner at University of Missouri. So for me, personal experience, just because I guess I eventually bought in to the work ethic my dad was trying to just beat into my head. And then also was around some people that cared about me and were interested in me developing. I was able to get into a spot, and then that helped me get to another spot and another spot and another spot. And again, the SEC is very competitive, but every morning I pinch myself because I'm benefiting from that greatly. So the one thing I can tell you for my heart and soul is, if you show somebody results, which is, nothing's easy when working with athletes, but it is certainly more difficult, I think, to show results with an ERA or a batting average, because there's not as much you can control. But when it comes to somebody's physique or fitness level or what they can do with their body, I really do think if you're passionate about it and you get them to be passionate about it, the results will be shown. And whether kids show it or not the right way, especially because kids, they're probably not going to TikTok you a note of appreciation or something. They show it differently these days. It's there. That bond is there for a long time, and maybe you don't see it till 5 or 10 years down the road. One thing that might be the most interesting topic for folks here, or a topic of conversation, is our program. from start until now, and happy to, this is one where maybe if you do have a question, feel free to stop me. By no means do we have things figured out, but I will say humbly, we got here and our players verbally admitted they did not feel like they belonged in the SEC. Nico Masha was the guy I could quote on that, and others were shaking their hand. And I think a big reason was they didn't look like it. They didn't look like it physically, so they didn't feel like it, so they didn't think it, and they were not. And I worked at Arkansas beforehand, and you could kind of see some athleticism, and we're like, man, this guy's good, this guy's good. But that combination of kind of that flow chart I just mentioned, it wasn't there. And you kind of knew that needed to be there. And when I was interviewed for this job, it was a wild 24-hour process. One thing I said was, it just didn't seem like there was a brand name here that was really sticking. And obviously Coach Serrano I saw his work out in California by way of regionals, and his resume speaks for itself. He had done that before. It just, for some reason, something here wasn't clicking. And, he handed some strong pieces off to us, but we knew we had to turn those pieces into, again, that SEC mindset, which if you press rewind on the VCR, which none of our kids know about that anymore. But if you backtrack, it's going to go to how do you look and how do you feel every day when you walk into the facility? So for us, it was going to be ground zero we had to start at. And so we were very selective. We came upon Q in October. Our administration was starting to get pretty pissed at me, to put it bluntly. I think everyone's adults that's on the Zoom. We took long, and it was because I think it's the most important position by NCAA rule. And I don't know how it works necessarily in high school anymore. Our time together was very short in high school in St. Louis, Missouri. But by NCAA rule, our strength coaches can be around our players far more than the coaches. And that's something that, I took to heart when we kind of looked over all the options and kind of how we wanted to go about it. And for me, it was going to be the start of this culture word that got thrown out around a lot, especially around town. We started to win a few more games than Tennessee had in recent years, and people thought there was a huge shift in culture. I think that's a tough word to dissect. I think the bottom line is the standards were raised for our players, and we tried to raise the standards in recruiting by maybe hustling around a little bit more, making some adjustments from people that had success here and maybe not as much success in the past with the recruiting approach. So maybe some elevated athletes came in, but the bottom line is when they did come in, the standards were raised. I mean, Nick Senzel was here before we got here, so it's not like there weren't good players. I think a big part of maximizing what we could get out of our players and then reaching that mindset where our guys feel like not only do they belong in the SEC, but they can beat anybody in the SEC, all is in the room right next to us, which is in the weight room. And it was a slow, steady drip. I think as we look back, there's a lot of lessons learned that came, and a lot of shifting and maneuvering things around. You have a strength coach that comes from pro ball. You get hired for a reason. You don't change who you are. And that goes for anybody, any job, myself included. I try and remind myself that. But you do have to pay attention to your environment and who you're with. And I think Coach Q, coming from mainly pro ball, had to just learn the NCAA rules, which are goofy, first of all, but also to kind of understand certain things about the athletes. One lesson we had learned was, I kind of bragged to him because I had more college experiences. When these guys go home over Thanksgiving and Christmas, you watch. They're not going to do their stuff. And that if there truly is a culture shift here, I think that's one thing is it's not cool anymore to go home and just chill with the boys and not do your stuff. It's embarrassing if you come back and you don't. And that isn't anything you can turn in 1 year. And I'm kind of rambling on about the call it transformation or progression of our program is a better word. A lot of people will stop you on the street and ask, or they want to come to practice. It's like, you can come to practice if you want, but it's going to be boring. It's for us, it is a day. It's kind of falls in line with our sport, which has so many repetitions. It's a day to day thing. And I think, our people, I've had little to do with it. I've been able to kind of maintain, again, stay true to who I am, which is almost more of a big brother to our players. I hope they're not listening. I know I got to kind of be the figurehead at times, but also keep kind of an energetic presence and young presence and do my deal and really let Q be the executioner, which he's done a good job of. And I don't know if there was a discipline piece missing here before. I doubt it, but I just think that part has been ramped up. And you do it well enough and it bleeds off into the players. And now all of a sudden the players are starting to discipline one another as well. So however it happened, I don't have the magic ingredient. We never sat in the office and came up with some master plan. I think you do want to visualize long-term success, but the best way to do that is to focus on what day do you have in front of you and how well can we do this deal right here. And then as you move along, the two things I wanted to say to you about what about just running a group fitness wise? As you do move along in that progression, I've kind of already alluded this a little bit. You have to look, how can I make this better every day? And that's hard for someone that's good at what they do or real knowledgeable or has experience, is when you walk in this facility, like technically I'm in charge of the facility. There might be this will be silly, but there might be a better spot a trash can can go in. But you walk in the next day on Tuesday, it's better than it was on Monday because of that small adjustment. If you do that over and over and over and over again every day, then just whether it be your facility, your people, how you guys meet, how you interact with the players, what the plan is, it's going to improve. And I think, again, if you have success or if you're a competitor at all, you have pride, which you have to beat back a little bit in order to make small adjustments and improvements like that. Now, having said that, I think those are tweaks. Because the biggest thing I wanted to tell our players over the break is stick to what our plan is. It's easy to go home and get confused with all kinds of other stuff. What we want is our guys to have conviction. And when the season comes around, when we play Mississippi State or South Carolina or name whatever team, they may actually have a better game plan than we do. And that could be, it could be their stretch, their dynamic warm-up before the game. It could be their BP. It could be their bullpen. It could be their two-strike hitting approach. They could have a better plan than we do. But if our guys believe in that plan and have more conviction to them and executing that plan, we're better, period. We'll probably win the series. And I say that with the caveat of knowing everyone in the SEC has good players. So the talent's kind of on par. So my biggest thing, and it's a two-way street, or it takes two to tango. You'd like to have everybody, the old corny cliche. I tell our guys, cliches are cliches for a reason. They make friggin' sense. And people have said them over and over again. So that's why they're there. And the old pulling on the same rope is a very important topic, because it gets everybody without a doubt and without confusion doing what's in front of them. And again, I think exercise A may be better than exercise B, but if you're really tuned into what you're doing, exercise B, focused on each rep, have intent, all those things. And this one, you're going through the motions. It's an easy example, to bring up. Any questions or anything at this point? All right, sweet. Q's not falling asleep. So, the other thing is, I wanted to mention with you guys is discipline is a big part of what we do here. And to me, I've kind of paid attention. When it's immediate or the quicker it comes, the better off you are with our guys. And I recently was around Max Scherzer. I coached him at Missouri. Otherwise, I don't know if he'd hang out with me or not. He's got too much money. But Max mentioned an incident in the weight room. Scott Bird was our strength coach, and he did a phenomenal job. And he did something incorrect. In the way that he was corrected immediately, and he was asked to do a little bit of a punishment and then reminded with authority, it stuck with Max, and he'll never forget it. So he knows when he is in the squat rack, the way he's supposed to kind of go about his business from that one incident that stuck out. Well, Max is now a veteran, and over the years, good Lord, how many guys has he kind of passed that down to? But it was interesting for a guy who, obviously, you get to the big league level and you're making that much money. You probably want to streamline your workout. It's not going to be the same as anyone else on, the Dodgers, Nats, or Rangers, whoever you're playing for. But at the same time, he kind of comes back to, this is how the team was doing it at Missouri. And this was laid out by his strength coach with authority. And it was kind of like the little kid, hand on the hot stove. You don't ever want to do it again. And he got his hand on that hot stove, and I wish he could tell again, we're all adults here, so I could use his colorful language and give you the whole story if I wanted to. But I think that discipline piece, being immediate and coming with, speaking of the word conviction, coming with conviction or authority, is important reminder for those guys. And as much as we kind of, you could call it the transfer portal, you could call it egos, as much as we kind of tiptoe around, I don't want to offend this guy, maybe he'll get mad at me or get me fired or go somewhere else. First of all, I don't think you're living a good life if you're walking on eggshells like that every day. But also, I know from experience, it's weird, but I've got a bunch of years now racked up in coaching these guys. And I truly believe guys that are older than them as well, and certainly guys that are younger, these guys want to be hardened. They want to be toughened up. And they may not show it outwardly, but again, it might be 5 years down the road, they'll thank you for it. And I think if you are going to give discipline, especially this day and age, they want to be disciplined, but they don't want it to come from a tyrant. They want it to come from almost their buddy. And I got a couple Bob Knight things upstairs. When he passed away, me and my buddies kind of talked. It was almost like the unofficial ending of, there is no more tyrant or dictator that's going to do the job. And Belichick can act like it if he wants, and football is a little different. If you don't have each foot in the right spot, the whole team's screwed. So it's a little bit different, but even so, that I don't think that guy exists anymore. And again, I don't think you should change necessarily who you are, especially if you've been doing it for a long time, but you do have to tune into your environment. And I think those days are over. So if they want to be, if I'm right, and they want to be disciplined, but they don't want it to come from a tyrant, then there's going to be extra time that has to put in, whether you like it or not. And that's where we have as much success as I think anything in the weight room is, the lifting stuff and the program is good. And if you look at our guys, they all look the same, but there's a lot of extra time put in with our guys, with Q and our guys, to build a relationship. So when that time comes to set somebody straight, it's not coming from that tyrant where it's combative. It's a relationship. It's almost kind of like a marriage. And obviously there's two different roles there. That's the way I've always seen it, and try and express it to our guys, even when we're recruiting them. I mean, all of us are just teammates in there, and we have to, when you walk through the door, you got to know what your role is. And while I may have to be in charge of writing out the lineup and deciding whether Trey Lipscomb is starting or not today, or on any given day, we're just teammates. I'm just wearing a different hat than him. And in order to coexist, I think that's step one of kind of understanding that. And I don't think everyone's got to hold hands and be kumbaya, but that is now the world we live in, 100%. So whether you want to know my personal story or not, one, very good, worked my butt off. When is this hard work going to pay off? I could beat, for those in pro ball that know Jace Tingler, I would wait for Jace Tingler to do his push-ups or pull-ups, and we had dips. I would wait, see what number he got, so I knew what number I had to beat. And he'll probably want to fight me, and he does jujitsu and all that now, so he could probably beat me up pretty good now. But I would beat him. So I'm achieving in the weight room. When is this thing going to translate on the field? In all honesty, it did. Now I ended my career. I took a hit by pitch and a 3-2 count, which is not smart, by the way. I think anyone knows if you're getting hit, it's ball 4. So the very end wasn't that great with a fractured hand, but midway through my senior season, I kind of figured out you need your body and you need your mind. And I think with the people that had been with me in the weight room and training, Jesse Swift, all that, my dad, I think I had become tougher, but meathead tougher. You could put me through any punishment. It wasn't going to bother me. But at the same time, when I walked to the plate, I wasn't confident, and I didn't know how to relax and be the natural athlete that I had become, fairly athletic with all that work, and let that work pay off, So I talked to people about, I used to look at that sign and be pissed and even teared up one time. I remember sometimes I wanted to rip that sign off the wall. Sooner or later, a hard worker will succeed. My question was when? And I found that answer when I was a senior. When you let it. And when I let it, it was too late. The good thing is I start coaching the next year and I get to try and pass that message on along to guys and really tried to let them know if you kind of divided it into two things. I even made a picture once. If you haven't, you should see the John Wooden pyramid. It's pretty awesome. It's studied by businesses, but it's also kind of wordy. There's a lot of building blocks there. So I kind of made my dummy version of that is just a foundation of prepare, and then the triangle or kind of the top of the pyramid that sat on it was compete. And if you prepare like crazy in all facets, whether it's flexibility, speed work, agility, strength training, and of course there's baseball skill set that comes with it too. If you prepare, then you can be the guy that lets his hard work pay off and just go compete on game day. And I think that mindset kind of slowly started to help our program at Missouri. And we're playing against, we're playing against Cal State Fullerton 2 years in a row. And I called up their coach at the time and said, hey, I kind of noticed your guys are doing different things than our guys. And he said, I know exactly what you're talking about. And he said, that's not me. That's Ken Ravizza, who has passed away a few years back. He actually passed away in the fall, and we were planning on bringing him in January the next year. But to me, I consider him kind of the godfather of the mindset part of baseball, or the mentality piece. And I got hooked up with Ken, and it was awesome. And so he was helping me kind of unlock, again, the mindset and the strength piece, and all the training our guys were doing. The throwing program was good, but really just the mental side. And I don't even know all Yogi Berra's quotes anymore. You can quote whoever you want, and I don't know what the damn balance is between mentality, mindset, and also the physicality piece. But I know in order to unlock who you are physically, you have to have this involved as well. So the one fun thing I've seen in here in the weight room is just that correlation of, this is why you're doing this, so that when you're on the field, it can be this. And it's very difficult. I've never been this way. I've spent so much time in the weight room. I got to assume it's very difficult to be looking to see guys get growth and gains and add strength and look more cut up or lean or whatever, and still want to correlate that and make it functional to what's on the field. Because that ego piece could get wrapped up, that I think strength coaches have to fight, is, again, that ego piece of, all right, do I want to win the bodybuilding contest or the shape contest or the highest numbers in the weight room contest in the SEC? Or do we want to finish first in the standings? Because again, going back to that whole thing of we're all teammates, I got to stay out of the way and let Q do his thing. But I also got to assume that Q is building our guys to obviously have all those things, look good, be stronger, but when they go out there, it's more functional, and it's going to translate into something that we got going on the field. And I think any real life examples or parallels or metaphors, or steal something from a Lil Wayne lyric or something, but compare, confidence has no budget is what my weird brain was thinking. But translating how this is going to make you a confident player and allow you to just perform as the natural athlete you've become is a key piece. And that mindset thing is, again, back to the culture thing. It's an everyday thing. So if someone came and said, man, I think your guys are confident, or they play with energy, or we receive a lot of compliments, that to me, it's recruiting and Q. And the byproduct out there is a bunch of guys that are physical and play hard and play with some confidence. But again, it stems from an everyday thing. If you came to study our mindset, a talk we had or something like that, we might bring it up for 5 or 10 minutes in a meeting, but it's more a day in and day out thing. And just understanding that if we stack all those days together, we will get what we want. Because again, I go back to your audience. These guys, I think you got them for about how long, Beth? How long do you think our nutritionist, I'm asking, you're usually pretty quick with our guys. I think 12, 15 minutes, they're going to start thinking about, a girl that they saw on campus they like, or whatever, their last at bat, whatever it might be. So I think the part of stacking those days on top of each other has been a huge key for us, as opposed to trying to gobble everything up at once when we first got here. Or also, we didn't kick the can down the road and say, let's try and be good in year 6 and we'll just wait this out or anything. It had to be a now thing, which our best year was 2022. There was a few guys that were in on that first year. And I think if we cheated those guys either by going to one extreme or the other, like trying to run them out and you know, going way over the top, or just, okay, he can do this exercise, or he can hit in the cage on his own. Let's meet upstairs and figure out how we're going to be good 3 or 4 years from now. Well, back to my Scherzer thing, which I kind of wanted to correlate him at the same time. Those guys like Luke Lipsius that were here our first year were coaching the younger guys like Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, Blade Tidwell, guys that kind of became the superstars in front of our fans. They were the guys underneath that. And, you know, I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'll mention, you know, the team that won the national championship this year. Same thing. If you make a poster, you're going to make it of this guy, this guy, this guy. And who might get left out is their version of Luke Lipsius, is a Cade Beloso, who was there for many years and kind of learned the program and how things go and what doesn't work. And there's a coaching change and all that. So that's an asterisk. But I think understanding the benefit of what could come down the road if you're instilling the right things in guys now is understated. And we got our hands full trying to get these guys to see long-term success or kind of have a long runway in front of them that they want to be. And for us, one of it is, hey, you might not be in pro ball. So if you're going to work until you're age 65, you better see a long runway in front of you of how are you going to have success? You know, if you do want to get married and have kids, how are you going to be in that area, in that field? How do you balance things out? How are you going to have enough energy with your nutrition and your work habits to be able to go on and do all those things? So I think it's a delicate balance if we're trying to convince these guys to think long-term, which is so hard for young kids, and then bring it back and say, what are the habits and the way you need to go about your day right now that are formed so that you can be that guy you envision yourself to be, and also affect the ones around you, either by way of example or by way of talk of this is kind of how we do things. So I got many, many more notes, but I know we're getting close on time. So I at least want to have at least an opportunity to ask any question or anything I left out, Q, or any critique. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think, you know, for us, if we're to continue to have any level of success here, it's going to stem from the mindset of you have to put an awful lot of work in order to be in a position to have success. So what I mean by that is Drew Gilbert's one of my favorite players ever, probably one of the biggest maniacs in the weight room ever. But I also get, you know, asked on the street, you know, why are you letting that guy flip his bat? And I certainly didn't want him to throw his helmet like he did the one time, but I'll take the home run in exchange for the helmet throw. But for us, you have to do an insane amount of work and go through what our guys are asked to go through in there just to be in the position to be on the mound to pump your fist if you strike somebody out, or if you're at home plate to flip a bat or whatever. And again, to me, if you can make your way through that gauntlet, which we've had several guys just tap out the first month of the year. It's about one a year, to be honest with you. They tap out, the others keep going. And then if you can be that guy that's out there, you've earned the right to be who you are. And again, let that hard work pay off. So hope that helps. Certainly happy to visit with you all. If anyone needs anything from me in particular, can always go through Q, or I'm on the website too of ours that you can hit me up. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate it.